Hi, my name is Riley Robb, and today I will be talking about the world-renowned artist Georgia O'Keeffe. The life of Georgia O'Keeffe. O'Keeffe was born to a large family in Sun Prairie, Wisconsin on November 15, 1887. She lived a long life and passed away in Santa Fe, New Mexico on March 6, 1986, at the amazing age of 98 years old. Where and when O'Keeffe created her work. O'Keeffe had been into art since she could draw and write, but her career began at the Art Institute of Chicago and Art Students League in New York. At the start of her career, she had learned traditional painting techniques, but after she met Arthur Wesley Dow, his revolutionary ideas changed her artistic perspective greatly. This opened O'Keeffe to more abstracted ideals and allowed her to think alternatively in art. She soon realized after adopting this technique that it was easy for her to express herself through this art form, and she became very popular because of her style of art. She also painted skyscrapers and rural areas as well in New York while living there. But she made most of her work and got many of her ideas from the immense amount of time she spent in New Mexico. She created a lot of different landscapes and in many places around the world, including Far East, Southeast Asia, India, the Middle East, and many places in Europe. Important information about O'Keeffe and her career. O'Keeffe has always loved art from a very young age and excelled and was recognized with her artistic ability early in life. She had created over 200 paintings of flowers and many other paintings as well. She even quit painting at least 3 times throughout her career because of mental health or physical ability. In 1916, she took some of her charcoal paintings to one of her friends, Anita Politzer, who knew a man named Alfred Stieglitz that had a famous art studio in New York. In 1917, O'Keeffe and her sister stopped in New Mexico on the way to vacation for her first time, and O'Keeffe was amazed by the beauty of the landscape, which encouraged her to visit many times after this. She moved back to New York after moving several times around the country to seriously pursue her artwork with Stieglitz and his studio. Important information continued. After a while of working together, O'Keeffe and Stieglitz got very close. In 1924, Stieglitz divorced his wife and shortly after got married to O'Keeffe. In 1923, O'Keeffe had to quit painting for the first time because of mental health. She ended up losing her vision in 1971 a while later, which forced her to shortly after quit again. O'Keeffe did meet a man, though, by the name of Juan Hamilton, who became her assistant and helped her continue her career. She received the Medal of Freedom in 1977, as well as the Medal of Arts in 1985. During the end of her life and her career, she wanted to be somewhere she loved and close to medical care, so she permanently moved out to Santa Fe, New Mexico, where she spent most of her previous summers. Her assistant, Hamilton, also came with her. The first painting I want to talk about here is Georgia O'Keeffe's Untitled Vase of Flowers watercolor painting made in 1903 through 1905. This painting is important because it was created during the beginning of her career. This is when she was more into a realistic traditional technique. This was before she moved into a more abstracted artistic view and before meeting Arthur Wesley Dow, which changed her ideals greatly. The second work I want to talk about is Georgia O'Keeffe's Drawing 13, made in 1915. This is one of O'Keeffe's charcoal drawings, which I had mentioned before. This is one of her first abstract works, which she used to explain bodily or mental sensations. She continued to base her work after this on how she felt and what she imagined. This drawing is also important because O'Keeffe mailed these charcoal drawings to her friend Anita Politzer, who took them to O'Keeffe's then future husband, Alfred Stieglitz. Stieglitz, who exhibited them in his New York Gallery 291 in 1916, noted that they were the purest, finest, sincerest things he had entered 291 in a long time. For the third work, I would like to talk about Georgia O'Keeffe's Light Coming on the Plains series, which contains Light Coming on the Plains 1, 2, and 3, made in 1917. In 1926, she began the series of watercolor paintings, which she based on the beautiful views from her summer walks. She particularly was fond of sunrises and sunsets, especially of the vibrant, intense nighttime colors they emitted. O'Keeffe freely painted series like Light Coming on the Plains without first creating a sketch, inspired entirely on her own private feelings. But O'Keeffe stopped working in watercolor when her relationship with Stieglitz began, as he believed watercolor was more for amateur female artists, and Stieglitz believed O'Keeffe had more potential than this. The fourth work I would like to talk about is Georgia O'Keeffe's Orange and Red Canna, made in 1926. During her early years in New York, living with Stieglitz, O'Keeffe had gotten to know several other artists in Stieglitz's network, including Charles Demuth, Paul Strand, and Marston Hartley. Strand's photography in particular had an influence on O'Keeffe, as did Precisionism. She began to paint natural inanimate objects like flowers and rocks. This above work, Canna Red and Orange, is an example of the large-scale flower works for which O'Keeffe quickly became widely admired and recognized. These magnified portrayals of natural objects allowed O'Keeffe to express intense emotions. The fifth work I would like to discuss is Georgia O'Keeffe's Radiator Building Night, New York, made in 1927. While living in New York, she became inspired by New York City skyscrapers and city skylines after her 1925 move to the 30th floor apartment in the Sheldon Hotel. She created a series of paintings of New York buildings and cityscapes from 1925 to 1929, showing her precisionist style and skill at portraying buildings. This painting specifically is one of the most famous examples in this series. The sixth work I would like to discuss is Georgia O'Keeffe's Ram's Head, White Hollyhock, and Little Hills, made in 1935. In 1929, she left New York to visit Taos, New Mexico with her friend. From her window, she could see the Taos Mountains, which she ended up exploring along with the deserts in the region of the hikes that summer. From then on, O'Keeffe returned to New Mexico almost every year, collecting souvenirs like rocks and bones from deserts to use in her works like she did in the above Ram's Head, White Hollyhock, and Little Hills. This particular painting was meant to depict elements of Ghost Ranch, which she later described as beautiful, untouched, lonely feeling place. She often created works in New Mexico because she was inspired by the beautiful landscapes and nature. The seventh work I would like to discuss is Georgia O'Keeffe's Summer Days, made in 1936. In 1936, this oil painting came to be known as one of her most famous works. The painting shows a desert below a deer skull and wildflowers in a similar style to Ram's Head and White Hollyhock and Little Hills. At this point, O'Keeffe had purchased a house at Ghost Ranch and was spending much of her time there. In 1933, O'Keeffe had written that desert bones she came across were strangely more living than the animals walking around, which she portrays in the above piece. This particular piece is my favorite because of its Western feel. I like how it is realistic and very detailed while being somewhat abstract, since the flowers are painted in the sky as well as the deer skull. The eighth and last work I would like to discuss is Georgia O'Keeffe's The Beyond, made in 1972. This painting is very important because this is one of her last works that she made without help from others. At this point in her life, her eyesight was very bad, but she had managed to create this painting on her own. No other works were known to be made without assistance after this piece. In conclusion, O'Keeffe had a very long and successful career spanning over several decades. She is still widely known to this day, especially for her paintings of flowers. A lot of critics claimed she was painting these flowers as representation of the female genitalia. She denied these claims, though, and said she was just portraying what she feels and experiences. I wanted to end this slideshow by displaying a few of O'Keeffe's other works. As you can see, many of her works are of nature, but all are very unique, and she uses a wide spectrum of color and value and tones. I do find her inspirational though because of her very successful and long career. Despite having medical issues such as degenerating eyesight, she was able to persevere and continue with her career. I find this very inspiring since eyesight is a major component needed in order to be an artist. So I find it amazing she continued to do what she loved and worked with an assistant to create art after losing her eyesight entirely. And with that, that is the end of my slideshow. So here is my works cited, and I want to thank all of you for listening. Thank you.